networking with them, talk about anything you like or you don't like about AWS. Because it's a chance for you to express any feelings about your experience. So let me first of all introduce our user group. I'm Alex, the user group leader of AWS UGHK Hong Kong, and I'm also the AWS community hero. In case you are the first time coming to our user group, none of these names here listed are AWS staff. We are volunteers, and we have another job other than. Usually we have been working with AWS, but not working in AWS. So in our team we have another hero, Richard, and then Gabriel, and I think Fred is still on the way coming, because it's still very early. And then so I think the objective or the mission of our user group is quite simple: is to having fun for all of you, having network in the Hong Kong local community. Recently, in recent years, we have many JDI initiatives, and you can see lots of meetups around the town. But I think in our user group, like back to 3 years ago, when JDI was not very active, our main objective is to gather developers, gather AWS users in Hong Kong, so that we have a chance to talk about it. And I think I just met some old friends here, and then we were talking about changes in AWS, changes in JDI, and the change in our identity. So I think we have lots of topics to talk about. But then let me keep it short because I would like to introduce another new UG this year. So Cyrus is the user leader of AWS AI user group Hong Kong. So I pass the mic to Cyrus.
Everyone is talking about the AI, and it's time to have more activity, and so we just set up a new user group to more focus on AI technology on AWS, and we have some regular event. If you are going to the social media, you might notice about the Agent Cons Hong Kong, and this is the first last event from the created by AWS AI user group mainly, and then also supported by AWS Hong Kong user group. And if you not yet registered, please welcome to register the AgentCon. We will have a lot of sessions related to AWS, a track on AWS, different speaker. We have workshop, keyword workshop in the April. I forget the date. But just stop here, and thank you to coming for the user group event.
Thank you. We have another slide about the agent call, so you to register. And so before the topic start, we also want to introduce our distinguished head of development, HKC from AWS. So we'd like to pass the mic for you to introduce your team.
Thank you so much. Hi everyone. It's so lovely, first of all, to be here. It's my first time in Hong Kong. And yes, it is. So I definitely blocked 3 days after the whole offsite that we're doing, so I can kind of go and look around. I've heard amazing things from everybody. But what I'm most excited about is also meeting all of you, the community in Hong Kong, and again, seeing so many amazing things that's coming out of here, so many amazing content, staying up to date with the latest trends. So one thing we wanted to do is really just be here. I don't have too many things to sort of share, but really that we're here to learn from you and also sort of talk about what can we do better for the community in Hong Kong. Like what can we do better, how can we support you, how can we nurture this community, and the industry is changing so fast at the moment, right? There's always a new thing every week. All the design patterns that we are looking at is also changing. So I guess we want to be part of that conversation with all of you. So really our goal, there's a lot of people from my team here. I'll also maybe just ask them to raise their hands at the moment. There we go. So a lot of people from the team here, but also people from Japan, Korea, India as well. So I think it's an opportunity for us to learn from all the things that we're doing, so we can take that back and again make things better for the community. So I'm only asking, come and talk to us. We'd love to just socialize, hear from you how things are going, and what we can help you with as well. So with that, I'll pass it back to you. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for doing an amazing job here in Hong Kong. Thank you, everybody.
So I know that they also bring some Spark here, so in case you haven't taken it, so please feel free to pick one and then save it on your notebook. And yeah, so many special guests here tonight, so be sure that if you have any things in mind, just take the chance to talk to them during the networking section. So I will now introduce the first speaker of tonight. So is Anna, and her topics are evaluation lessons for agent production. Welcome, Anna. Okay, so okay.
Thank you so much, and a warm welcome to everyone who joined me today. I'm Anannya, or as people call me, Anna. I am from India Developer team. I work as a GenAI developer advocate. My core work lies in fundamentals of machine learning, data science, AI, generative AI, and now agentic AI. Today, we have already addressed a lot of things like how we build agents, how we develop agents in local, but we'll see how it goes into production, and we'll also see how you evaluate them to make these agents have better outcomes. So as I mentioned, that we already started with talking to LLMs, and we had chatbots who were giving us results, responses on instructions that we gave to them. But then we developers and builders all around the world figured out that just talking to the LLMs would not help us. We need them to take actions on behalf of us, plan on behalf of us, do a lot of the heavy lifting on the reasoning. And that's when came agentic AI and the era of AI agents, where they started becoming fully autonomous. They were just getting a set of instructions from us humans. They were breaking down those into smaller tasks, planning on the behalf of humans, doing a lot of executions for us. For example, booking appointments, to canceling appointments, to doing rescheduling, or maybe a lot of other tasks that we humans were doing on a daily basis. And finally, also doing the reasoning stuff for us, whether the tasks that were getting executed are of optimum quality, are the results accurate, or how do we even evaluate these agents on a daily basis. So I'll not keep it more of a theoretical. Let's interact. On this slide, I talk about agents are powerful, but they have certain challenges. Can someone in the audience tell me an example of non-determinism, where agents, you asked it a particular question or you gave it a particular task and it took the interpretation in a different way and gave you an accurate result, but not the result you wanted for your task? Anyone has that kind of an example? Anything. Like you asked the agent to do something, it did do, let's say in that domain maybe, but did not generate the response that you were looking for. Any example? Anyone in the audience? Yeah?
Yeah. I asked the agent to correct the code to let the test case pass, and it changed the test case.
Okay. Thank you, Richard. That's a great example. So we have all been asking the agents to write code for us, modify code for us, debug code for us, and maybe we gave it a snippet in Python, and it generated a particular file which was not Python, or maybe a different code altogether, which is correct. When you run it, it will give you results, but not the results that you wanted. So yes, fundamentally these agents have a lot of issues when you do them when you build them in your local, starting with giving you different results, accurate but different, then it might expose a lot of data because they are fundamentally doing the planning, reasoning on behalf of you. Then it also has a problem of authority overreach. What I mean by that is, you had asked it to book a flight, but it went ahead and rescheduled a flight that you had for a different date. Or it just took that information from you and did a certain planning it did not, we did not want that to happen. So these kind of problems are ever emerging, and we need better mechanisms for actually finding out why these things are happening. And here I talk about the different points of failure that come up. So it could start with an agent simply hallucinating, giving you an answer that's quite accurate, but not up to the point. It did not have that information, but it somehow took it from its internal knowledge repository or the vast internet data the LLM had been trained on. So the agent just inferred that response. It could also be that it had hundreds of tools in its bucket, and instead of picking up one tool, it picked up a combination of tools and gave you the answer. So these are the different points of failure which start affecting the end quality and becomes inefficient thus for the customers, the end users, and even us developers, where we find it challenging to accept it on a daily basis. And even though we have evaluation mechanisms in place right now, let's say you updated a model, or you changed the version of a model, or maybe you've changed a small business prompt, or some data was added. These things can go for a toss. So how do we continuously monitor these agents, and how do we evaluate them in production is in question. And that's where it all ties back to your agent's observability, where you should get to know what happened, how it happened, when or why it happened. So this is going to be powered by the different things, like logs will tell you what actually happened. Are you out of index, or is there a memory error, or did it because there was not a file found in the repository that you were asking the agent to search. So different things enable different quality evaluations. It starts with logs telling you what happened and how it happened. Traces, when you deep dive into it, you know what and why happened. And then finally, how much. So you might have a particular metrics. Let's say I wanted to know whether my agent is giving accurate responses 95% of the times, and when you evaluated, you got 79% or 80%. So you know how much of that gap is there. You want to address by how much. So these things we need to understand from the different parameters or the different, I would say, evaluations that we have. Now enough of the theory that we had. I'll tell you about a real-time issue I faced, and I'm sure almost all the developers now building AI agents face. So what happened here is, I built a travel platform with a single agent, a travel agent, which had to do a bunch of tasks. It had to find flights, it had to do the bookings, it had to find hotels, get visa info, do a web search if I just want to casually look at destinations I want to travel. It also had to calculate trip budgets. And I gave this agent all the tools you see in the colored boxes. But when I deployed it and I started asking it questions, for example, can you tell me some hotel recommendations in Sydney. It gave me the answer. As soon as I asked it a deep question on calculating budgets or calculating trip itinerary or planning my whole trip, that's when this agent started failing. Because what happened is, in the backend, it did not know which tool to pick up, or there were so many tools that it defaulted to picking up the web search and doing a generic search. So when I asked this the question, is $3,000 enough for me to travel from India to Maldives? It just said, take this flight, take this hotel, stay for these many days. This is what you can buy. This is where what you can eat or where you can eat if you want this budget. But it did not give me the precise answer whether this budget is enough and how much I would incur on each of the different items. For example, $1,000 on hotels, $1,500 on flights. It did not logically reason those things. And now how did I know that it picked up web search tool instead of all the other tools that I had given to it? So coming back to the non-determinism challenge, this is what I was talking about. It did not pick up the tool. I tried running multiple sets, multiple sessions, and different prompts with the agent at different times. And every time I ran it, it gave me different responses basis which kind of tool it was picking. So if you see, the metrics actually allow me to find out that 42% of the times it was picking up web search. Now, I ran this agent in a batch of 100 100 prompts and in a batch of 5 in 3 different sessions. So the result that you see is from those tests. Now 42% of the times, which was very common, it could go and do the web search, tell me the generic information. The remaining times, it did try to check the budget, but again, with plain web search, it just told me the flights that I could take and hotels. And the last time is when it actually asked me my preference, whether I would like a 5-star hotel, whether I would like a 5-star flight, or I need a business class or economy. And that is what I want from these agents to do for me, make my job easier, rather than just giving me generic information. So this is what I was talking about, that agents are non-deterministic. What actions they will take, how they will take, we need to know. Just going through the architecture here. So it starts with, let me try to highlight. So this was the agent which started with doing all the other stuff. I had a set of tools here, and they were all deployed on Lambda. It's written with Python, and I deployed this agent on runtime, agent called runtime. I asked agent called gateway to directly connect with the Lambda functions, and I had pretty much everything. Is the green part which was missing on the top, the observability and the evaluations. This is what was missing from the architecture to tell me what went wrong and how I could fix it. That's where my deployed agent needs the evaluation. Now I don't have a live demo because unfortunately we are using loaner laptops or secure laptops. So I just run the recorded demo here. Just see what happens. Now in agent core, just give me a minute. So now just see how I'm configuring the evaluations of this agent. So on agent core evaluations, you can select the different metrics you want to evaluate an agent for. Do you want to see conciseness, tool accuracy, precision, coherence? There are different metrics of analyzing the agent's performance. So what I do here is, I first go ahead and for my deployed agent, I just point to that deployed agent, which is an agent core, and I configure the different metrics I want to check and evaluate. And that's the only small step I did here. And I went ahead and started now testing my agent. While this is a black screen and the demo is small, let me just walk you through here. So if you see, I have given it a set of available tools, some 7 to 8 tools that is there, and the prompt I'm telling it that you are a research assistant, specialized travel research assistant. You need to suggest me flights, travel options, budgets, and other things. This is the limitation. Now if you see, I had mentioned basic guardrails around it, that if you don't have the information, do not respond back. If the tool is not working, give me a fail message. If the tool was not searching the right actions, just give me a response saying I could not find the information. Still it went ahead and gave me information from its own expert knowledge. Response formats and other things I had mentioned. And then what to decline. Like apart from the travel domain, if I asked it any other questions, it should not tell me those answers. It should refrain from answering those, plus also general advice and knowledge. Now let's run this demo. Okay, so it starts with, as I mentioned, the tools, the prompts. I gave it the lambda, I pointed it to the lambda functions where these tools were. I deployed the agent on agent core. Now what happens essentially in the backend is, you have your agent, you convert, you write a Docker file, deploy it in runtime or on agent core runtime. I did that, and then I started different sessions. Yeah, so if you see, the agent core is launched, and it takes some time, but I'm not able to forward the demo. Okay, I check the status whether the agent is deployed correctly and go ahead with running the multi-session test suite. Now this is where I ran the agent in batches of 3 with 100 different prompts and over 10 sessions, over 10 different sessions. And I got the different metrics I showed, if you remember: cohesiveness, correctness, coherence, responsiveness, tool selection accuracy. There are 11 to 13 options of different metrics that you want to track in Agent Core. So you can start tracking your agent performance. I had checked each and every metric because in the initial times I was not able to figure out what and why that particular error was happening. So later on, if you see, once this runs, I will get a summary of the different evaluations. And basically, after that, what I will do is, whichever has the lowest scores, I need to pick up those sessions and I need to evaluate them. And that's where human come in the design principle. So they are not there by choice, they are there by design. While the evaluations will tell you what went wrong, how it went wrong, we need SMEs or developers, builders who can actually tell us how to fix them, how a particular thing can be molded or changed to give the response. So that's when once an SME evaluated those different metrics and chose the lowest scores and checked what went wrong, they simply asked me to go ahead and refine the prompt. I just had to do that by telling the agent which tool or combination of tools I should pick up when a particular thing goes wrong, or define negative prompting and define positive prompting in the right way. So once I did that and I ran the multi-session test suite again, I definitely received better scores this time. Now all my agents, my agents exceeding my metrics that I had set, the baseline metrics that I had set, exceeding those metrics. So if you see now, when I ask it, can I go to an Eiffel Tower, can I visit Paris and go to the Eiffel Tower in XYZ budget, it's able to say, yes, why not, this is what you should do and how much it should cost. Then I ask it another question. Is it visible in the back? No? Oh. Okay, let me just tell you the question. For example, I ask it, what's the best time to visit Japan for cherry blossoms? Initially, it was telling me cherry blossoms come in May, but it was not telling me go in May because that's when cherry blossoms come. Or what's the weather like? Now it's reasoning that. It's also telling me in the south, there's a particular time. In the north of Japan, it's a particular time that you should go around. Stay near these locations where the cherry blossom trees are more prominent. So reasoning, you can see how it's now correctly selecting the different tools and reasoning out at the different times what response to give. That's all about doing it once. We have to do it multiple times. For every model change, for every update that's there, even if I change small data in the data set that I have, I need to rerun these things. How do I do that? And that's where automation comes into picture. So you start, of course, by developing agents with the right set of evaluations. But for each run of these agents that you have in production, take a sample. I had taken a 2% sample. So I built my agent, I deployed it, I configured evaluations. What I did in the last step, if you see, I configured samples that from each and every run for a particular session, I would take a 2% sample and I would check the evaluation metrics, why or if it's low. And then in the production, for each and every change that I push, my same pipeline works. I'm not going to do this manually every time. This is an automated use case where maybe it could be a Python file that you run on every update or on every change. And once that particular things happen, if you see in a traffic that your agent is not performing right, the program itself flags you. The program itself flags it and tells you when you actually need to look at it. So even the monitoring does not need to happen manually. Yeah? And that's agent core for you. So it starts with runtime, providing you the platform to run your services, your agents, moving on, providing you the memory so that your long conversations or your short conversations can be remembered. With identity, it secures the access to these agents. And finally comes your observability and evaluations, which help monitor and evaluate your agents. And this runs very well with whatever agent framework you're using. Okay. So I've talked about this a bit in the previous slide, but just let me tell you how observability and evaluation are different from each other. While it sounds same, how it's different. So observability is when you try to see how and what happened. evaluations actually tell you whether that particular event which is flagged needs to be looked upon. So in your observability, you might see 1 or 2 traces in the log of a file not found, and that's okay. But evaluations will tell you that this happened 10 times or 5 times or 100 times, and you need to look at this event. That's the basic difference, and they work hand in hand, because whatever you capture as part of observability gets pushed to evaluations, and evaluations further tell you whether to act upon it or not. Now, if you see something I've written, call LLM for each metric. Now you might ask me, you are asking an LLM to evaluate it basically for when it went wrong? Yes. Now these LLMs will only infer these situations. We as the SME or the agent owner in this case will tell whether I finally need to update anything or not. So you observe, you evaluate, and then you assess. You observe what went wrong, you evaluate how much by how much, and then you assess as a SME whether I need to act upon it, or is it even relevant for my use case. Maybe the end user was trying an action which wasn't part of this particular app, or wasn't part of the agent's principles. So the agent kept on responding no, 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 or whatever. Yeah. And that's where comes what you want to evaluate, what you want to observe. Can someone tell me why I monitor security cost latency on application level and not an agent level? Anyone? Okay, so on agent level, we would always want to monitor the actions the agent are taking. On application, not so much. We would want to monitor how many times my agent run and what cost it incurred, rather than how many times the agent failed. So the metrics are slightly different for each and every use case. Agents, you would want to find out their actions, their how they're handling the multi-turn conversations. Are they able to maintain context? Is the right response being given by them? Are they selecting the correct tool? So that will help you modify your agent's behavior. But in the application, you may have a single agent, or you might have multi-agents doing different things. So how different agents ensure the correct response is given, and security and cost and latency matters is what on the application level. So that's the basic difference. You may go ahead and monitor latency and cost on agent level, but in production actually that thing might become little tiresome or a duplicated effort, because anyway the different level, the 11 different metrics that I showed you are already part of the agent code deciding whether it's taking a wrong action or not. This I mentioned, but just letting you know again, whenever you find different metrics which are let's say not at par, or they were negative scores or low scores, always have your SMEs do the assessment after your LLM has evaluated, just to be on the safe side whether that was an action we need to take to modify the agent's behavior. With that, always remember, start small by building a single agent, then you deploy it and you always configure different test cases for different sessions, metrics on agent and or application to monitor your agents. So it's always build, deploy and monitor. And after that comes assessment, where the humans or the SMEs help you derive the logic behind what needs to be changed, whether that action needs to be taken. Are you done? With that, I close my case where agents should not be built numbingly, but they should also scale better. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Anyone want to ask?
Yeah.
Anyone want to have some any questions? We have some time for Q&A.
Or maybe I'll be just outside if anyone has any questions.
Yes, all people are nice time, so it's okay. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
So yeah, you will face a lot of questions during the networking session, I believe. So yeah, thank you. So it's a very, very wonderful and high quality presentation. And I would say those PowerPoint is quite high in quality that seldom have such a good quality now. You know, usually we have a very quick PowerPoint and that's very well crafted. And then for the next speaker, I at that time thought some issue, but anyway, I just have to show the slide for the name. So so for our next speaker, we will have Vishal from also from AWS, and his topic will be teaching your AI to code like our team. So it's to replace us. Right? A technical guy is here. So yeah, you can set it up first, and sorry. I think I just take out my. So I have visited Vishal linking before he came. I saw he was a ex-hero. He was a hero of and then later on become a staff of AWS. So. Let's see if it works. Okay, so yeah, good. So I pass the hand to Vishal.
Hello everyone. So first thing first, I'm not going to teach something that is going to replace developers. Okay? So don't worry about it. We are important, we are developers. We are here to improve our efficiency, coding efficiency using AI tools, but we are not going to develop something that is not human-centric. So don't worry about it. Okay? So today we are going to see how AI can help us to develop applications, agents in a better way using byte coding, steering, hooks, and few more things like MCP, external coding standards as well. Okay? So let's walk back what happened earlier, what we were doing a couple of years back. In 2023, we started using AI for the development. If you remember, we were just using few of the extensions in your IDE, where it would help you to auto-complete the things. For me, IntelliJ was my best IDE that I used to use for development, or Sublime, VS Code. In Sublime, I had few of the extensions that used to help me complete the syntax. Okay, it was very basic. You had to tab and then to complete that particular syntax. Very simple. That used to help me to develop faster. Okay, and at that time it was very helpful because many of the times I used to forget my syntax, where I had to write the loops, I had to write some complex syntax for some Python projects. Okay, so that was helpful. I had never thought at that time that my code would be entirely auto-generated after a couple of years. So I used to love that feature. Later on, in 2024, we saw AI assistants in the picture, where it was generating some larger context or larger code, entire snippet of your code. So you could just add some request for some particular functionality in the code, and it could generate that code. And you could copy the code into your code base, and then you would refer that. Similar to what you used to do in earlier era, where you used to copy the code from documentation or Stack Overflow or other sources from the official knowledge base. As well, we used to copy the code, modify it as per our requirements, and then we used to do it. So with this kind of assistance, we could use them as real-time question and answer guide for our code, right? We used to ask, what if I want to change this code to do some particular tasks? What if I want to change this loop in order to do this for 1,000 iterations? Okay, we used to do that, and we used to generate the code. We used to copy that code into our code base and use it. Okay. After that, in 2025, when agents started evolving, we saw a big leap where many of the agentic IDEs were introduced in the market. Okay, which is your favorite agentic IDE? Okay, who uses the agentic IDE over here? Anyone uses VS Code? Okay. Anyone uses VI editor? 1, 2, 3, 4. That was my favorite when I used to work as a DevOps engineer. I used to do many of the operations over there, though it is not agentic. But yeah, so many of the people have used VS Code, IntelliJ, Hero. How many of the people are familiar with Hero over here? Oh, quite few. That's good, that's good. So I don't have to go into the basics now. I'll just start with those things. But yeah, where the agents came into the picture for the development, we saw the change where the entire code for application could be developed with simple prompts. And that's where we saw vibe coding in the market, in software development, where you could give a prompt to the system to develop your application. So it might be a simple portfolio website where you could give some prompt, build a simple portfolio website having 5 pages about us, portfolio, my projects, and contact me page. Okay, it was so simple. Then it evolved later on to build enterprise grade applications where you could provide entire context to the agentic IDE, including what would be the front end, what would be the back end, what would be business logic for that application, and it could generate entire code. Okay. So this is how AI is changing our software and the developers' daily lives. Okay. Okay. Now let's move to the AWS. How AWS is helping developers with their tools to develop applications in faster way. Okay. First one is Amazon Q CLI, developer CLI, where you can use it on your standalone machines, or you can integrate with the IDEs like VS Code in order to develop the applications in faster. You can just do some CLI operations to generate the code, run the commands, and get whatever code generation that you want. Okay. Then let's move to Hero. Hero is again an agentic IDE. I'm going to show it in a demo directly. That is going to help you to develop your application from scratch. You don't have anything. So it will help you to build your first prototype, very initial prototype, and then moving it forward to production level enterprise grade application. Okay, and then we have IDE plugins that will help you, like you are using any other IDE. You can integrate those IDEs for the code generation, code review, and debugging as well. Okay, and then with the AWS console, you can go to CloudWatch to see the metrics. You can see insights of your application, what is going on in your application, and review your entire application. If there are some issues, you can investigate that and come back and see what is failing over there with these kind of tools. Okay. Okay. Now let's start. Before starting with Hero walkthrough, let's start with a simple question. How many of you have tried to develop your application using any of the agentic IDE? It worked for you guys. It generated the code. The code was perfect. It was working. UI was perfect. backend was perfect, all the functionality is working. Okay, but still it is not up to the expectations. Has anyone observed this? Consider a scenario, you are following some coding standards. A simple use case where my company used to use 4 spaces as a tab in my ID. You can relate that, right? 4 spaces. Every company has different mechanisms to handle syntax and coding standards as well. Okay? I use vibe coding or I use spec-driven development to develop the applications. So for that 4,000 lines of 4,000 files, that particular coding standard was not followed. What happens? In an enterprise grade applications, what happens? Anyone? That doesn't match your industry standards. Right? In that case, what we have to do? We have to go back, check syntax, fix the things, ask agentic ID to fix those things. What if we could do this? We could define this somewhere. Right? And that's what we are going to see. What is steering today? Hopefully my demo is visible. Okay, so we're talking about spec-driven development, where we can give some prompt in specs. So if you see, I'm going to read this prompt: user story in Jira project, Hero demo, to get requirements for adding agent categories to our backend API, and then assign the issue to me. Okay. And then once we run this particular prompt, we'll see that it has connected with 2 MCP servers, Jira and Fetch, to connect with Jira and assign that. After connecting with Jira, it will create that particular MCP server configuration and it will assign it to that particular Jira category. Okay, so these are events that Hero has run, and for this kind of spec-driven development, you will see it has created some files. Okay. So with Hero, what we are doing is in spec-driven development, we are creating the requirements in markdown files. Consider these markdown files as readme for your agent. Wherever agent is referring to those files, it thinks of the context of your project. What are your requirements? What are the basics of your project? What are your coding standards? What are your API requirements? What would be the context for your project? That might differ project to project. It might be for front end, it might be different. If you are developing some database sensitive applications where you have some schemas where you have some sensitive information, you can pass on in the context over here. Okay, so once this is run, if you see, it has created 4 different files. First one spec, where it will create all of the specifications for your requirements, all the detailed specifications for your requirement. That will have like all of the categories. Maybe if you're consider example, a banking example, enterprise grade banking application to maintain the transactions, it will have particular specifications about business logic, how money from a particular bank account flows from ATM machine to their account, maybe CDM machine, where we can deposit the cash, how the transactions are recorded, which database is used, all of those things, including the business logic, we can mention over here. In the requirements, we can mention about what backend technology you want to use, what front-end technology you want to use, what AWS resources you want to use, what would be infrastructure requirements. Okay. Then in design, you can create your. So Hero is going to create with your prompts. You don't have to do it, but you can update it as per requirements. Again, this is smart ID, so you can just put the prompt, what are updates you want to do with the file, and it will do it. You can basically, if you are good at business analytics and do those things manually, you are free to do that as well. Okay. So with the design, you can create structure for your project using Hero. You can see all the structure, verify that things. And at the last tab, you see on the third tab, it is creating task list. Okay. So what is the task list? If you see over here, this is a tasking file that has the entire implementation plan for that particular enterprise grade application. Okay. What it will have, it will have code generation capabilities, what code it needs to generate, what infrastructure it needs to generate. Then if it is using infrastructure as code using CloudFormation or Terraform that you have specified in your earlier specifications, it is going to add those commands to it. It is going to create tasks for each of the API validation, schema validation, database creation, database schema creation, sample data insertion, everything that you do for a particular project, it is going to be mentioned over there as a task. Okay. Over here, there might be few of the things like consider use test cases. Like if you are thinking about test-driven development, if there are some test cases that are not mandatory to run at this stage when you are deploying it for first time, okay? Or there are some use cases that are run only once. Just to, if you want to run a database creation, if you want to create a database and verify that, you have to do it only once, okay? So in that case, you can mark them as mandatory or not mandatory, and your ID will treat those things over here as per your requirements, okay? So with this kind of spec-driven development, you can mention all the requirements in your prompt and it is going to update that. And this happens in iterative way, okay? So once you do this and run it, and when you go to the task file and click on execute, it starts creating the code, okay? And you can, if you see a button over here, follow, here there is a button called follow over here. Once you run the command, it will show you what is happening. So in your task, if there is something or some task called create front end, it is going to follow, it is going to show you over here, and you can follow how it is creating the code. You can see what are the standards, and I am going to show you how steering files are going to help. But this is how Kino works for the spec-driven development, okay? Okay, so next slide, once we created the specs, we have all the structure ready for using the spec-driven development. Next part is agent hooks. So what are the agent hooks? In a simple terms, you can automate anything that you want to do in your development tasks. So in the previous demo for spec-driven development, we saw a list of tasks that we could execute, right? So in that case, when you run execute, it is going to check that task and there will be always human in the loop for those things. It is going to check what is the task and it is going to ask you if you want to run this particular command or not. So basically it is going to go to the shell command or shell prompt and run some terminal commands, or maybe creating code, or all of the commands it will run on backend, but it will ask for your intervention, right? So what if you want to automate these things? Because in tasks there will be thousands of tasks written over there for enterprise grade applications. You cannot go and click every command, right? So you are not going to wait until these things complete and then it is long-term process. So what if you can automate this? So with the agent hooks, we can write a prompt to automate those things. So you can just create a prompt. I'll just replay this thing. Okay, you just have to add an agent, and in normal natural language you have to write what you want to do. In this example, I can write automate all the commands that I am seeing on my chat panel, so that I don't have to intervene and approve those commands. Okay, so Hero will create a hook file. It will create instructions for Hero agent for that. Okay, if you see, it has created a hook over here for the agent. So for all the things that you want to automate for your project, maybe after each save, if you want to check the syntax, if you want to link particular code, you can add those instructions to Hero and Hero will do that. It's that simple. You don't have to do those things in manual way. If you see, if you have worked on Sublime or VS Code, there were some extensions that you had to add manually in order to do this. In Hero, you don't have to do it. Just add those instructions, whatever you want to automate. Add those instructions, and Hero is going to automate that with hooks. Okay. Okay, we saw about what is Hero, what is task or spec-driven development. We saw how spec-driven development works, how we can use hooks to automate those things and improve our productivity, right? Now let's see what is context management, and then we are going to see what is MCP, how we can integrate MCP, and what is steering. Okay. So demo time. Let's say demo where how we can connect to external sources. Is it visible? No? I'll explain that. It's very small. The demo, the font is very small actually. Oh, I cannot see from here. Okay, I'll just tell you things. So with advanced context management, we can connect to the external sources. Maybe consider a scenario where you have to use any external APIs to connect with your systems. For example, you have to send some WhatsApp notifications to your clients for particular operations, maybe database operations, or you have done some transactions, you have to send that notifications. Hero is one of the service third-party provider that has that capability to send those WhatsApp notifications. Earlier, we had to integrate their library to your application, then you have to call their APIs, and then you have to integrate that with API keys, create all those things, then you have to connect, you have to place that APIs if that work, then you have to pass the workload of the data or payload to that particular API, okay? And then you could send the response, and you have to do all those things with manually your code. Now with the MCP, it's just simply, anyone knows MCP? What is MCP? Yeah, what is that? In simple way, in simple terms, what would be MCP?
Help the agent to connect to external services.
External sources. Okay.
Yeah.
Different tools for the LLM.
Different tools for LLM. Okay. I would call it USB-C protocol or USB-C port. Right? For MacBooks we use USB-C. For Androids we use USB-C. For iOS devices we use USB-C port. Right? So MCP is some standard protocol in the market that has been derived in order to standardize the connections to multiple sources to LLM agents or applications. So simply it will provide a standard way. So over here with the MCP, you can create a MCP agent, and you can just simply plug in that agent to your application. I'll give you an example that I recently tried, and so she had given this idea for one of the demos. We were at one of the workshops in India, and I used Zomato MCP server. Everyone knows Zomato? Food delivery app? I use Zomato MCP server. I added this in Hero. It is very simple to add in Hero using Hero MCP configurations. and over there I added the Zomato MCP server, I added my account credentials over there, I configured it, and then using my prompt in my application, I could just enter order a pizza medium size from Domino's to my address. I never had to go to Domino's website, I never had to go to Zomato website application to do those things. It was that simple. And then that order was delivered within 30 minutes at the workshop venue. It was that simple. And it is really surprising to see how easily we can connect those things. Earlier we had to do those things. Even if in a software world, if you have to integrate Zomato in your application, it was a tedious task. It was not that easy. With the MCP servers, you can connect to any of the external entities or external data sources and do those things in better and efficient way. Okay? Okay, this was about MCP. What if you're working on some federal data or some sensitive data that is not publicly available? Right now, your LLMs are operating on the data that is publicly available, right? What if that is not available anywhere on the internet? How will that be able to develop those things? Considering you are working with US government, they have some sensitive APIs and they are very private to them, they are not exposing to internet, but you want to work on that. How will you do it? Any way to do that? Using white coding, LLM?
I was going to say manually.
Manually? Then you are not even AI developers if you are doing those manually. Any thoughts? No?
Local LLMs. Like local models.
Local, but again, how can you connect that with internet facing applications? No? Okay. So there we see a concept of knowledge bases where we can integrate any of the local knowledge bases, any of the documentation. Consider you have a PDF of 1,000 pages that has your API documentations. You can just import those things into the tools like Bedrock knowledge bases, connect to Bedrock, connect Bedrock APIs with using MCP servers or directly with powers, Kiro powers. I'm going to show you what are the Kiro powers. It is an on-demand context for your Kiro for particular applications. Similar to this particular use case, okay? And we can use those powers. Apart from that, we are going to see custom agents. Anannya has already talked about custom agents, and I'm not going to dive more into that. But those are task-specific personas where if you want to generate image, you can use particular task-specific persona. If you want to generate some complex text or code, you can use that particular personas for your agents. Okay? Okay, we talked about agent, we talked about MCP, we talked about knowledge bases. Those are external sources. Now, in terms of context, let's talk about how we can provide context to Kiro for your existing code bases. Consider you're working for enterprises, they have thousands of repositories on GitHub or they on their own SVN repositories, and they want to use agentic ID now in order to develop those things. So in that case, you can generate your student files using Kiro. You can ask Kiro to generate those files, Kiro automate those things. You don't have to do those things manually. And then those markdown files for your project, specific to your projects, are stored in .kiro/theory, and then those files are stored in your version control. Okay? How does that help? Consider you're working in a team of 100 engineers, 100 developers. Everyone might use different coding styles, everyone might use different coding standards. Everyone might have different ways to handle the errors, right? So how we can uniformize those things, all those things? Okay, so in that case, we can save those files on Git or in version control using Hero, and then it acts as a single source of knowledge for your team. It will be made explicitly available to everyone in the team. They can see what are the things that are there in your sharing files and how they can follow along. Okay? So even if some new developer joins into team, he doesn't know about your coding styles, your coding standards, your nomenclature about the files. Or maybe I'm a DevOps engineer, so generally I work on Terraform to create infrastructure where every company has different way to name their infrastructure. Name their EC2 instance, name their resources. In that case, I want to keep that uniform for across my organization. I can use those things. Okay. So in a simple way, we are going to provide context to your ID for your Hero using sharing files. Okay. Simple example, hopefully this is visible. Okay, this is bigger one. So here, what we are providing as a context to Hero is guidelines for the front end. Okay, where it will define the structure. What will be the color codes? In Amazon, you will see, if you have seen Amazon documentation, there is particular font that is being used, Amazon Umber. Then there are particular colors and styles used for every page. Okay, it is uniform across all the Amazon pages. Okay, so we can use those kind of things in steering file to provide Hero context for your front end. Okay, apart from this, think about application that is using some libraries. Okay, I was developing mobile web application where I had to use Telerik as UI component for entire organization. All of my UI was created using Telerik UI components. In that case, I could provide Hero a context, use these particular components. These are the files, these are the CSS files that my Hero has to use in order to create or generate UI. So Hero won't go to internet, search for how they can create this component because it already has that context. It will generate the code according to the context that I have provided. Is that clear? Any questions about this Hero sharing? Any queries, any doubts? No? Okay.
I just want to ask a question. So it's basically a lot of markdown files that tells the agent how to access it. Like this is the main thing of it, because I'm not quite sure if this is the case or I understand.
Yeah, that's correct. If you are working on enterprise applications with thousands of files, there might be lots of markdown files.
And the spec, we manually tell it how exactly we want it to have like specific, like the specs. We have to write it manually, is it?
No, you don't have to write that manually. You can generate it.
It will read from our base.
It generates from your code base that you have in your repository. Yeah. But over here we are going to see how, it is again too small, how it is going to create, generate steering docs. I told you Hero can generate steering docs as per your existing file. So if you see, I opened the my existing npm code over here, and once the code is open, I just clicked on generate steering doc, and it is going to run that prompt, and it will now create a steering over here. There are multiple steerings that have been created for product, tech, each of the domain that I have in project. It is going to analyze my entire code base, and it is going to create the steering for each of the agent, okay? Each of the type for that particular agent. Then front end, back end, product, and your business logic. It created those steering files. And all those steering docs are stored in .kio/steering. You can go and refer those things, check out. If you want to change anything, you can go back to prompt, ask you to update as per your requirements, okay? Okay, next is MCP server configuration. I told you a good example about this. I did this for Zomato. This one is different one where I have given a prompt, use AWS documentation tool to find out frameworks that are supported by Amazon Agent Core. Okay, so it is after running the prompt, it is going to find out MCP servers for that particular service. It will check documentation. It will check documentation from stand agents, Bedrock Agent Core, and it will connect to all the documentations for your application. So it is similar to what we saw for Zomato server or Zomato MCP server example. This is what we are doing for AWS documentation, where it will find queries related to Agent Core. Okay, so it is basically doing the same thing that we discussed about Zomato. It is going to create MCP servers that are required. It's going to query in the MCP server catalog where which are these services available, which are the servers available. It is going to add it into the project, and then you can simply query those MCP servers and feed the data over there. Okay, I recorded those slides because the keyboard is not working right now on my laptop. But maybe I can share you a few more documentations and videos that are available publicly for Kilo, where you can see how steering files can be integrated to your projects, how you can configure MCP servers for external sources that are available in market for that are related to your applications. Consider like MCP servers are kind of repository where you can connect to any of the external sources. Okay. Yeah, I think that was all for today. Thank you. Thanks for
Thank you, Vishal. I guess so many of you may have questions, but I know that you guys are not here to ask. So, yeah, I think any questions?
Any questions?
You see what is asked. They will ask you after the break. So, yeah. Then I can see they have a lot of questions in their mind, but then they will ask you during the piece time.
So you can connect offline and you can ask the questions.
So before we start the networking session, we still have a few things to talk about. But then let me see this works. So so the upcoming there will be an agent call. So Sarah's outside. Okay. So it's okay. Just get the code. Register and be there is fine. So yeah, please get the code and then you will see we will be there. I guess everyone Richard. Maybe also has some talk there. So we will talk more about the AI next month. Just 2 weeks later. So everyone's done this scanning. So of course, meanwhile you are scanning the code. There's another code for you to scan, but I don't care. Yeah. If you do want to speak some topics, because we haven't recruited speaker for a long time. If in the past few months you got new topics, you got new things to share, we register with this code, and then we will contact you, and then you will be our speaker. And finally, we have the group photo time because we haven't the group photo yet. So maybe I can invite our speaker to come forward, Muna to come forward, and then on the instrument monitoring side. Yeah. So in our team.